Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and CA put out a video, kind of a shorter type of rally point. This one is just on the Wood Elves, talking a bit about the backstory. Not too much in the way of like deep lore, just kind of an overview of everything. Talk about the differentiation between the woodland spirits led by Durthu and then Orion and the Elves. They also do give us some nice views from in-game, some of the ruins in the forest, but then also some of the different elements from the Wood Elves specific mini-campaign. And this is something that I had seen previously, and that CA showed a bit in their live stream and all that, but it looks freaking awesome. I slowed this down just so you can appreciate a bit of the detail that went into this. It's super awesome. I like how they have the different the 4 different seasons represented within the forest, an icy realm with these glass or ice shards sticking up everywhere, representing the different kind of elf sub-kingdoms and the magical elements of this whole area. You can see the Oak of Ages there in the background as well. So that was pretty cool. It's always nice to see the artwork on full blast, and of course, as we've mentioned before, some of the new changes and updates to the effects in Athaloran will make it into the Grand Campaign. And then here they talk about the Elvin Council, supposedly trying to represent the 14 different kind of not clans, but sub-contingencies, I guess? I don't know how to call it, but the subgroups of the elves. And then they start to talk about the different faction leaders. So here they talk about Orion, how he's a kind of partial caster, but also melee expert. He has the Wild Hunt that he can call, and he can charge in here. You saw him previously with that projectile that he can throw in a big spear for heavy damage, and then of course here coming in to just slaughter some guys up close. And then here is Durthu. So he has here recruitment minus 50% for branch waste. All units in his army are immune to all attrition, melee attack plus 10 during forest battles. So he looks like a pretty cool guy. He's got the lore of beasts, and he's going to be a huge melee expert with also some spells that he can cast, and then of course the animations that we've seen previously, but it's always nice to see more of the gameplay. We also get to see some elves charging down the hill, obviously taking some fire, and then the people from CA, Joey, and the like were stating how, well, the elves obviously do what they're expected to do. They can fire at range, and there we saw the archers actually firing while moving. But then again, at the same time, continuing to mention that they have low armor. So we have only a couple days till this gets released, and we can actually judge for ourselves how the balance plays out. But I think everyone is really excited about this one, so we'll see kind of what comes of it. And there is definitely a big, significant choice between going Orion or Durthu. I'm glad they made the choice very, very different, and I love the way the Amber plays out. Here they're talking a bit about the different penalties and effects that can happen. So talking about here at the end, who are you going to choose? Orion, who has some different buffs than Durthu. But Durthu, the main difference is kind of who can recruit what and how Amber must be spent. So of course the dichotomy between just the elves or the woodland spirits. As Orion, you are the elves, and as Durthu, you're the woodland spirits. Next, I want to talk a bit about the latest patch that CA has announced that's coming in. So it's a bunch of improvements and fixes. One of the big ones that a lot of people are kind of applauding is this one here. Disabled the campaign AI's ability to enter forced march stance after raising a settlement. So admittedly, I don't play too much campaign, but I do know that the AI going around ravaging territories and then being able to kind of force march out of there immediately meant that they could kind of indiscriminately come in and destroy everything. So that's one of the big things that they took away. A bunch of other things here, tweaking text that's not showing up or missing destruction levels. They did mention here that the mana core no longer sounds like a horse, which I didn't even recognize, but it made it into the patch notes itself. So yeah, here mostly it looks like it's cleaning up certain things. Lords with experience gain skills no longer gain all the experience per turn themselves, and now correctly distribute it to units in their army. So lots of little things here and there. Breath type spells, it seems like, are getting a little bit of a fix. The wind blast here, they say, maps better to the terrain, so hopefully it won't be blocked as much as it has been before. Because I think, yeah, some directional spells and things like that just really never get used. So hopefully that'll improve the effects as well. And then next, they talk about some more changes. One of the biggest ones here is going to be if you look at the rank 9 bonuses for the Regiments of Renown with the range weapons. Previously, they weren't that much more impressive, and so again, no one really ever brought them. But here, they have improved their reload time and accuracy. to the point where these guys are actually going to tear it up in range combat, just like their melee equivalents do. So that is awesome. Definitely going to bring more of a purpose to them. So, for example, with the dwarves, I never really ever ended up bringing Bugman's Rangers. Sometimes I would bring the Empire's Silver Gunners just because they had magical damage, but hopefully this brings a bit more of a focus to them. More balancing changes. For some reason, they've decided to improve the abilities of melee chariots. Rebalance to impact harder, melee a bit longer, and pull out better. So I guess we'll be seeing a bit more chariot play. They also had large flying units. They increased their projectile hitboxes. It looks like a lot of the changes in this this patch are going to be to kind of nerf a bit of the flying unit spam that we've been seeing a lot of. So they're making it easier for them to hit. And there'll be more tweaks to that in the future that we'll note here. Some minor changes that they've announced, which are still pretty big. Auto-resolve is going to protect your high-quality units more. So in the past, when you'd go into battle and you auto-resolve just because you didn't have the time or it was a done deal of a battle, sometimes the AI or the computer would have you just lose your top-tier units for no reason. And that's one of the things I didn't like, that forced me to kind of play a lot of these simple battles just because I was scared. So good thing they fixed that. Siege equipment also has a more important role in the auto-resolver, and something about wiping out units being a bit easier. So fixing auto-resolve is always a good thing to do. Next thing, multiplayer ability attachments. They've removed Potion of Toughness from all heroes. That is a big change. Potion of Toughness, well, before you used to have two, Potion of Healing and Potion of Toughness. Then they removed Potion of Healing, and now it looks like they've removed Potion of Toughness completely. So that is going to mean lords can die much more easily, so hopefully it puts a focus more on individual units as opposed to the kind of hero spam we've been seeing. Speaking about spam and that type of thing, they have nerfed also the ability to spawn units, it seems here. They say that now that all spawns are temporary, so that means units that you can raise like manticores, skeletons, cygors, and other units. The way they've done that is basically they have, similar to when the vampire counts start to unbind, they take damage over time. This is going to apply to all summoned units to the point that they're just going to start losing health immediately once they're cast and decrease. So I think that's a good move. It's always kind of weird that you would buy a wizard, have him cast a spell to raise a Cygor, and then you get a free Cygor plus a wizard. It seemed kind of broken that you could get a full fresh unit. So this is I think a pretty good way around it. It also means that you have to be careful for when you spawn these types of units, so it's a bit more strategic. Then they go in faction by faction and talk about some changes. Bretonnia doesn't get too much, although it looks like for Bretonnia, and you'll see later Empire, they've increased the cost of the flying amounts. So again, this kind of goes along with the idea of decreasing the strength of flying units, which I think is good. I would love to see a multiplayer with less flying death squads. Pegasus goes slower. Pegasus hero mount has less mass, so hopefully we'll be seeing a little bit fewer of those Empire wizards knocking people about. For the Beastmen, it looks like the Potion of Toughness that we saw before is going to be stripped from their melee heroes, which could be bad for the Beastmen who rely on such big characters. But what's happened is the Minotaurs have come down by 100 each, all different types. So that's good. So we'll be still seeing some monsters on there, and that's going to keep the Beastmen pretty viable. Razorgore Chariots also getting some bonuses versus infantry. And all that, and yeah, so that's always good to see. I don't know why the push to have more chariot functionality, but oh well, they're pushing for it, so I will have to give it a try once this comes into effect. Chaos, some reduction in cost, it seems like a little bit across the board, and then they've improved some stats, tried to differentiate the units a bit more, and then Kolek here, they give him a bit more HP. And then the Shaggoths also gave him some more HP. Good to see Chaos getting a bit of attention and a buff. They've been a little bit underpowered as of late, especially with the units of Renown and Demigryphs with Halberds, just being able to slice and dice the Chaos Lord. So they do make an explicit reference here to having Kolek and the Shaggoths now convincingly beat 1 Demigryph Halberd, 2 Rexguard, or 5 to 6 Squig Herds. They're still not cost effective against spears. So good to see that they're buffing some of those lords and making Chaos more viable. The dwarves seem to have the most comprehensive or far-reaching changes. I'm not going to go over all of this necessarily, although it does look mostly its cost decrease for basic footmen and then increase to their armor-piercing and health and attack. So that's kind of cool. So a general buff for all the infantry. Longbeards have more charge defense versus large, so they can hold their ground. People were complaining that monsters were tearing through dwarven lines, which is, I've seen that happen. In response to that, it looks like Iron Drakes with Trollhammer torpedoes have had their cost reduced by 100, so you'll have more options to break monsters. Iron Breakers also are coming down in cost, same with the Norgrimlings Iron Breakers. So good to see that the infantry is going to be more viable. And then also the dwarf cannons and organ guns do get a range increase, whereas before they could be outranged by some of the longer range stuff, like I think it was the Bretonnian catapult or trebuchets. So the dwarf cannons is going to be right back up where it should be. I think they're going to be maybe a couple range points below typical artillery, but still now they're pretty comparable. And then next, the Empire again also is going to see all of its flying mounts increased in cost. The Griffin has less mass, so hopefully that'll make it a bit more, easy to take down, as well as the larger hitboxes that were mentioned previously. Spearmen, looks like they tweaked these a little bit. They say it takes 2 Spearman units to best 1 Dwarven Warrior unit, or roughly 1.7 Spearmen with shield. So looks like they're doing some tweaking on the low tier units. Always good to see. Great swords as well. They've tweaked them a little bit, reduced their overall charge damage, fixed a couple of the animations. Handgunners get more damage and a couple other tweaks here and there. And then finally the green things here, chariots getting cost reduction plus 8 melee damage. Orc big guns doing less armor piercing and etc. Same with the broken tusk mob, it looks like. Rebalancing around cost increase. Not quite sure why. I hadn't heard too much about these guys. But we'll see. And then also it looks like the giant has a reduced hit reaction chance. Giants, I've seen a lot of them being kind of slowed and stunned repeatedly, so hopefully this will increase the use of those guys. And then there's a little bit of a nerf towards the squig herds. Reduced speed from 70 to 58. Actually, that's pretty substantial, allowing other units to catch them, and then they also reduce their mass. And then finally the vampires here, not too much of a change, just slightly tweaking the grave guards with great weapons, more armor piercing damage, more melee defense, and again changing the spacing and charge animations, kind of similar to what they did for the great swords. So overall, kind of cool stuff. Excited to see a patch come in, excited to see the Wood Elves. So that's it for now. Hope you guys enjoyed, and definitely stay tuned for more. It's going to be fun on multiplayer in the weeks to come. So yeah, peace out.